Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the street. It transitioned over, and we should be good. First of all, thank you, everyone. Been recovering from a cold that I got last week. Originally, I thought it might be part of um, migrate angular island. Okay, no migrations created. That's fine. Originally, I thought it might have been part of just a vaccination, flu shot, or not a flu shot, but a pneumonia shot that I'd gotten. I don't think that was the case. I was pretty down for most of the week, so good to be back. Li- Oh, Kubernetes and Aspire. Glad you're getting over the cold. I am getting over it. I'm still feeling it a little bit today, which is a little bit frustrating, but template parser. Um, it, you know, starting to feel better. I'm not as low energy. I'm not getting as many fevers. Um, it feels better today. Uh, and I've missed streaming. Um, so I'm just happy to be here and streaming today. Um, there's a lot to talk about, and you guys may have seen me looking at this before the stream, getting a little bit distracted from the upgrade. Um, but Angular 18.2, fake async tests now will automatically flush. And if you guys have ever had the timer, I can't remember what the error is. It's like existing timers still in the queue or things like that. You guys know the importance of this update. So we'll see about yeah, discard periodic tasks, things like that. Yeah, here it is right here. One periodic timer still in queue, right? Um, this error, man, I've run into this error so many times. So having Angular 18.2 automatically solve that error is awesome. And you can opt out of it. So if your tests need to run the same way, um, then you can just add, change this flush true to flush false. Um, so by default, it's flush true. Without it, um, oh, so we're still waiting on zone 10.5, I guess, and then you won't need to run the flush true. They've also added some helpers to the application rev with when stable. The default query params handling is nice. Because now you can just set merge for everything. And you set up your provide router. So we'll probably go in and do that. And then other than that, there's a bunch of nice new migrations that are coming along. So one that'll change from constructor-based injection to user. And this one is really good. There are a lot of good reasons why you should go from here to here. The best argument I've seen against it is that by using this style, a lot of people compare this to what they call like a service locator pattern, where you can't really tell what all of the dependencies of a class are by looking at the class. When you use constructor based, you can. There's an issue, and I need to make sure that I stay up on chat. Hey, Michael. Um, you like all the DI in one wrapper. Yeah, and that's and that's a fair argument, right? Knowing where the DI is coming from. There's one good reason to use this over this, and there's a flag in TypeScript that enables this to still work in Angular. A while ago, the default flag in TypeScript was set to move away from this style of injection to this style. And The reason is that it aligns better with the ECMAScript specification for how classes and constructors are supposed to work. Um, if you use this style of injection and then you add a property higher, above the constructor that uses user surface, with that flag not turned on, that property will now throw an error when the class is constructed, because the way that the class would be constructed, this is really syntactical sugar, this private user service, right? What it does is it adds a property to the constructor, but then it automatically emits some code that says, this dot user service equals, and then the property that's passed in. So that's how TypeScript works. Without that flag turned on, any properties above would be put above the generated code, which means that it's possible for your DI injected stuff to not be defined when those properties are, well, it's almost 100% likely. Angular turns that flag on by default, so you don't have to do this, but it is a bit of safety. If TypeScript ever goes to default ECMAScript classes, then code like this could break. But you know what? That's not a big deal because we've got the generator that will fix it. And let's see, non-nullable. So then they added one for lazy routes. So it will go through, and any of your routes that you have that aren't lazy loaded, it will go through and handle that for you. There's some nice new diagnostics, and I've seen this in code before. I've written code like this before, where you accidentally forget to call, the function. Angular will now tell you when you do that. And then this is also a nice one. There are times where I've just left variables around in templates because I didn't realize they were still there. It's nice that this one will catch let. I haven't really used let a lot yet, but that's a nice one. And then this one is one that I really want to get into some more. But Angular has loaders. And so exploring like SVGs with loaders might be an interesting thing to look into. But now the CLI, supports loader-based configuration. So it will automatically, if you're using SVGs, it will add the with loader text. So not a lot here that we'll explore too much, but a good update. A lot of behind the scenes type stuff, and we aren't serving, so that's not going to work. I think the template parser, that all went through. Just make sure. Yeah, so that's all there. Let's go ahead and run the install no frozen lock file. And that should update that. TB gamer equals small. Okay, we're all caught up. But yeah, just some nice little things coming along with this. So just want to get most of this stuff upgraded, and then I just want to get through our upgrades. We're almost done. One thing while that's going on, let's get WebStorm open in the background so we can get that all upgraded. So we want to migrate the TSLint plugin. And one of these times, I'm hoping that the TypeScript ESLint, the ESLint plugin. I'm hoping that this plugin will upgrade us to ESLint 9. but it may take a little while because they're waiting on the ESLint team to finish their migration. Um, so modular state. Oh no. Probably got some out of date plugins. Um, ooh, this is cool. We definitely need to go back to analog at some point in time. Enhanced file-based file system routing support. That's really cool. Um, bun debugging. Oh, this is so nice. This is so nice. Not having to turn on prettier. Um, oh, this is nice too. Tailwind CSS previews. Um, that's true. I wonder if this affects analog at all. Run TypeScript files directly. JavaScript and pipes. Or TypeScript 5.5. Math syntax and Markdown. That's cool. Search everywhere. Oh, that's nice. Improvements for version control. Enhanced log window. Oh, that's nice. There's a lot of nice little changes in WebStorm. But let's take a look at our stuff here. So the analog plugin's not compatible. Let's go take a look at our plugins up here and just see if there are any plugins to update. Well, that's working. The migration ran successfully. So that's going on. Oh, I forgot to commit. That's okay. These two can go together. So we grabbed that one. So we want parser and then utils. So yes, it's parser, and then utils, and then we're good. Then we've got everything upgraded. Well, we've got these, but we can run them through NCU. Let's see here. Installed. It looks like it's not picking up any updates. That's fine. We'll go ahead and shut everything down for now. That one worked. So let's get utils in here. I mean, the main reason I shut down my IDE is it's something that I picked up from working on my Mac at work. For whatever reason, if I do a whole bunch of NPM or node-based package management on my Mac at work, it just uses up all of my open file handles and it starts randomly crashing applications, and it works in a really weird way. Like Chrome will refuse to open new tabs. VS Code does weird things. So I've just learned to shut down my code editor so it's not trying to index stuff while I'm in the middle of just modifying a whole bunch of npm packages. I'll let it do its indexing and stuff after I'm done moving all these packages around. Okay, there we go. We've upgraded all of our linters. So if we look, those are both upgraded. So we'll just commit that. Upgraded linters. We commit those two changes. And we'll go ahead and push that up to GitHub. And let's just see. I I think everything left to be upgraded is ESLint, which is a 9.9. We're not going to make that one, but these ones we can all do with NCU. So we'll just add the um, integrated or interactive and then upgrade. And so it's going to select these for me already. So we're getting an upgrade on Tailwind, StyleLint's upgrading, SWC, Stylistic. So we'll go ahead and let those run. And once that's done, I don't want to make this a linting stream. So if our linter is broken, I'll fix it off stream. We might do some testing stuff today. So I may have to fix tests if they're broken, but other than that, we're ready to go. We're ready to go take a look at our decoder button. It's been a week, so I'm like in my head, I'm like, what do we do? I was looking and I realized that, yeah, Monday I wasn't feeling very well. Thursday I was definitely not feeling well. So, and school started again this week. So all the fun stuff that comes up with that too was going on this week. There was another. So let's go here. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen shapes, but if you guys have ever heard of Factorio, if you've never heard of Factorio, Factorio is like, it scratches all of the what do I want to call it? Like the programmer need for optimization in my brain. Shapes, the original Shapes, I played it to death. It was an amazing game that basically took Factorio and boiled it down to its most simple. But it created a lot of spaghetti. Shapes 2 adds a whole bunch of trains and just crazy stuff about it. And I may be picking this up. I'm really excited about this. I watched a lot of YouTube while I was sick, and this, I was so excited to see this come out. So I don't know if you guys are into like factory style stuff. Not listening to your shilling of life consuming videos. Exactly. And this isn't, I'm not sponsored by them. There's no paid advertisement here, right? But oh man, there's so many quality of life things here, and like Factorio, it's consumed a lot of time on my Steam account. Shapes looks to be amazing. Well, Shapes was amazing. Shapes 2 looks to be really cool. So it may be consuming some of my time. To your point, DVD gamer. Yeah. Hey, Toto impersonator. I love that one. Toto impersonator. Hey, welcome to the stream, man. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Factorio, the space update looks amazing and satisfactory. I've never played Satisfactory. I probably should. It's like factory optimization and like the train part of Factorio, I just absolutely love. And Satisfactory does like Factorio in 3D, right? Shapes is a very distilled version of Factorio with a ton of complexity, but it only has 3 levels. So you start out with just 1 level, and then later on you unlock the ability to go up to a second level, and then later a third level. From what I've seen on YouTube, I actually haven't played it. Um, so it's interesting that it's taking so long to install the dependencies here. Um, yeah, 1.0 for satisfactory, exactly. If your PC can handle it. It should be able to. Probably not like highest settings. I don't tend to go like high end, but whenever I replace my computer, and I've been doing it lately with like gaming style laptops, right? Um, I think well, so when I got this computer, I was actually looking into desktops. The crazy thing is most desktops nowadays run the same amount as like a decent high-end laptop. Um, and so I went with a laptop again just because I wanted to be able to take stuff with me. Um, but I do that less and less because I don't want to disturb my streaming setup. And a desktop would give me the ability to add extra video cards without having to have external boxes and stuff like that. So I could have one that's doing, my computer and another one that's doing my streaming output, which would be a huge help. Um, so, and the Factorio update comes out soon too. Um, so I think Shapes was smart to release when they did, because it'll get everybody hyped for Factorio. But the Factorio update, man, am I running into issues again with frozen node processes? And this is one of the things that is just frustrating to me about um, so here's what I'm looking at. So you guys aren't just wondering this. So I use Bitdefender as my antivirus, and it's kind of frustrating me that it's running so many services because I try to kill as many of those services as possible. Um, this is all ARC stuff here. Um, yeah, look at all these node processes that just get stuck. And the other thing is that there's so many good games coming out now, and like I still haven't finished Baldur's Gate 3. Um, we've only got one Windows command processor running, which is good. But no, look at this. All these console hosts. Um, and this is kind of the annoying thing is I'm gonna go kill a lot of these. Because one of these console hosts is killing my basically that's what locks up NX. That's what locks up all of my other stuff, and I don't know why they get they get stuck like that. So I'm just gonna kill all of these, and I usually have to do this once during the stream or before the stream, and I don't know what causes it to happen. I've been trying to figure that out. One thing that I really wish Windows would let me do, and you used to be able to do this. Holy crap. I still got, even killing all of those, I've still got all these node processes running. I'm just going to clean up these. I just select all of them? No, that would be too easy. I'm having to click on each one, hit the delete key, click on it, hit the delete key. And what I should probably do, I could probably put together a script um, in um, PowerShell. So maybe I'll have to take a look at that. That instead of doing this manually, um, put together a script that will just kill all of these stuck processes. Okay, so that should have killed all my console posts. I killed those all manually. But by doing that, I've also, oh, look at that. Doing that actually cleared this up for me. So something there was holding on to that. Like it shouldn't have taken 9 minutes to go through all of that. So that was me talking about video games and stuff, getting distracted. There's no way that should have taken that long. So let's go over here. Let's get this all committed. Upgrade dependencies. And so now that we've upgraded everything, so we upgraded NX. Along with NX came the Angular migration. So you can see here all the Angular stuff was upgraded along with NX. So that all was there. So as part of any major upgrade, I like to here we will do a run dash many and we'll do our linting just off the bat to make sure that none of our linters are broken. And then after we run our linting, and I'm gonna move this back over here just so I can watch my performance. Okay, so this is okay. Oh, that's interesting. So in this jest config, we've got a we added a ES disable. So in the Vindico feature, we can clean that up. This one I totally expect because we haven't finished this test. So let's go ahead and just run our tests, but everything seems to be running okay. Yeah, our tests look to be running fine. We'll be doing some more testing today for the Vindy code feature, especially because of the updates that have been done to testing. I'd like to put some of those through their paces. So our unit tests all run fine. So the last thing we want to do is just serve our modular state. And that should be good. Let's bring up our Arc browser here. And you know, our Tailwind all compiled fine. Our styles.css is like 50K with Tailwind in it. That's pretty crazy. One thing we should take a look at our styles.css and see if we can move some of this stuff into the property, like into the styles of the app config. Not app config, of the it's not the app config, it's the angular.json. And see if we can break up this styles.css bundle. Starting to get a little bit large. But other than that, I mean, that's our biggest chunk that we're serving is this 50K of styles. And one thing I would like to explore as part of what we're doing here, again, the reason we're kind of exploring modular stuff is to see, you know, the ultimate goal. And one of the things I want to take a look at is doing SSR, SSG type stuff with this, with Angular, with the new stuff that they've put in place, to see like how small can we get the initial bundle sent to the browser. Hey, Fern of Sigma, welcome to the stream. It's good to see you again. Um, and so it would be awesome to just see how small we could get this initial bundle, like get these bundles potentially lazy loaded, which would be fun. Um, and then see how small we can get the rest of it. We've got some index bundles and things like that that we can take a look at potentially shrinking to. But the goal is just to see how small of an Angular project we can serve to the browser and still have a functioning Angular project and still make it a good user experience. Today we're going to be working on the Vin decoder. We just upgraded Angular to 18.2. So we're going to come in and we're going to be looking at the decode Vin button today. That button was styled differently, right? Or am I just imagining things? I thought we had that button styled. Yeah, it should be styled as a primary button. Oh, all of our button styles are interesting. Our styles are definitely. I inspect this button. Oh. I have. So I grabbed this dark mode. There we go. So I grabbed this dark mode thing, right? Because there are a lot of times on the on stream where we go visits like a site, right? And that site kind of boom, bright white. And like I said, while I was sick, I watched a lot of YouTube. And I was watching Prime stream, and he had this plugin. It's like, oh man, that is such a nice thing for streamers. So as a kindness to you guys, because there have been a lot of times where we've just suffered through bright white screens, right? Which it's not that big of a deal for me because my monitors and stuff adjust, and the amount of light that makes it through isn't that big of a deal. But when when you're watching on your phone or stuff, and we've got viewers who are in Europe and India and other parts of the world where it's dark. Maybe they're watching in bed or whatever, and just boom, bright white light, not a good thing. Yeah, in a dark room, exactly. Is the page very interactive? Yeah, it is. So what we've been doing with this project is we're building essentially a small mock-up of what I used to do when I worked for an auto auction. This is going to be just a very simplified version of like an auto auction site, right? So you'll see here we've got this Vin decoder. The decode Vin button actually goes out to the NH. I'll give you the name of the site here in a bit, but it's the National Highway Safety Transport. So NHSTC website. I think that's what it is. So it's the national website of the U.S. They've got a Vin decoder. So when we hit this button, right now it's not doing anything. This is what we're going to be working on today. Well, actually, it is. So it's calling. Why did we call it so many times? Clear this again. Let's refresh this page. That was a lot of calls. If I hit decode Vin, we get one. If we go to, so let's refresh. We know we get 1 here. If I go to wizard and I hit decode VIN, we get 1. If I hit next, back, home, and now we hit decode VIN, we get 1. Huh. Did I click that button that many times? I want to watch this because that might be a sign that we're leaking something somewhere. What's the little JSON at the bottom? So this JSON was added early on. One of the things that we could do is like maybe we go to one FM. Oh, let's turn you off. No. Oh yeah. This is LastPass that's causing this. It always scares me to see errors pop up. But like 1FM Broncovin, that's hilarious. That we were able to get the. Okay, so it's saying that hey, we've got problems. But position 6 and 7 are unused. But notice that right away it's telling us, hey, it's picked up that this is a Ford vehicle, Ford Motor Company. It doesn't know, it knows the make, it doesn't know the model or the model year because these typically come from probably one of the parts that's not working. It picked it up as a multi-passenger vehicle, which is probably from the M, 1FM. And based on the VIN that I provided, it was most likely built in Kentucky, right? But it was able to grab some things. So it's a class 1B. So it's pretty heavy, right? 3,000 to 4,000 pounds. Got hydraulic brakes, it says. A 4-cylinder engine in a Bronco. That's hilarious. With a 2,500 liter cubic centimeter displacement and cubic inches, 359. That's a 4-cylinder 359. 2.5 liter displacement, yeah. But single overhead cam, that's hilarious. So it's picking up right from the horrible VIN that we created here. It's able to pick up some stuff, right? But I'm getting distracted. The reason this is here is you can see that we've built a very modular way of putting together the application, right? And so you can see here that the VIN changes as things show up. And oh, we got an error message. It shouldn't have tried to decode this VIN because this VIN shouldn't decode. So there's an error in our error handling. So we'll need to fix that up too. But the point of the JSON was like, if we look here, we've got the navigation here. If I check and uncheck this, it's just to make sure, that the model behind the scenes is reacting to stuff. And then, the other one, the wizard based is just this model put together in a wizard. So again, I don't have the color here, but if we make the stock number like J100, and then as soon as this blurs, we see that it changes, right? And the midnight blue. We see the color changes here, and we see down here that the JSON that is showing is reacting to our changes here. So, and then as we go back, we can also see that, it's between the views and everything, it's all hooked up and all just handling 4-cylinder single overhead cam. Does not spark. Oh, exactly. Yeah, single overhead cam, no turbo, 4 cylinders. And so the point of the JSON at the bottom was just to show that stuff is yeah, very SSRable. And that's one of the things that we're definitely going to take a look at here soon. But I want to get this Vin decode button working. So that's going to be the first thing we're going to do is finish this up. And oh yeah, the other thing I didn't mention is that we've got a whole bunch of interactive stuff here. So if I 1, 2, 3, 4, and that is really going to bother me. I disable this plugin for a while. That's annoying. There we go. So for right now, those are there. Preserve log. I'm going to turn on preserve log because we might be doing some navigation. Yeah, those will all be good. All right. So you can see that as we make changes, everything updates, right? So we see that all happening. There is one thing that where is it? Autofill stuff here. Oh, that's interesting. They've added the a way to get image descriptions. That's very interesting. So it keeps dropping this down. But it's not giving me autofill information. There, I would. This is one of the things I really want to figure out here in the future. But I'll turn off suggestions for an hour. You can just go away. But I would like to figure out if there's a way for me to set up autofill to like auto generate like VINs and stuff like that. Because that would be really cool. But I just don't know enough about this autofill panel. Oh, hey Michael, thank you for the feedback. I get the same one. Yeah. Um, and um, it is a little bit annoying to have to use a password manager, but I mean, just the way things are hacked so much anymore. Um, like I used to use the same password on every website everywhere, which is incredibly stupid because if you figure out my password on one website, you could go everywhere, right? Since then, I've had to turn on, two-factor authentication. I have two-factor on most things, especially like on my streaming and like YouTube and stuff like that. I've seen way too many people get hacked as content creators, and I'm nervous about that. So I don't want that to happen to me. Why is this highlighted different than anything else? You see that? What is different about this? Is it the touch? No, because this one's been touched. What is it specifically about this one? I don't know what is causing that one to be different from anything else, right? Like everything else doesn't have this bluish background. The background color is being overridden by something. Um, Using an online password manager is too much for me. I don't think you can use native APIs for dynamic autofill. Well, and not dynamic, right? I don't want to do dynamic, but it would be nice to just be able to click here. You guys have probably seen it, like if you guys have used Chrome recently, when you go into like an address field, you can tell it, hey, fill this using this location and things like that. I'm very curious where the background is coming from. Is it coming from the year? Got the outline color. We've got a background color here. That's fine. That's what's giving it the look there. So then we can look at the computed, right? If we look at the computed background color, it is this RGBA, this light dark. Oh, that's interesting. It's an autofill. So because it can do an autofill on this field, and because I picked an autofill, it's adding that background. So if I just do like 2015, it doesn't do it. But if I do 20 and I pick like 2001, well, that's weird. I don't know that I like that. Like, who cares if I autofilled this? Like, really? This user agent style sheet, autofill selected. This is overriding. And it's marked with an important. Why is. Like, why? I don't understand that. That just leads to confusion when you're generating your forms. Yeah, it's a form. It's just a regular Angular form. Um, but let's go take a look at our Vin decoder because I don't want to get too bogged down in this. So there it is. That's what I'm looking for. Let's go back over to the console. And when we hit decode VIN, it's calling out to the service, and um, we're getting our message back. So any missing information? Oh, there it is. The NHTSA, National Highway Transportation Safety Administration. NHTSA. NHTSA. Yeah, and that they have to put this legalese, right? Saying, hey, our VIN decoder tries its best. But if something's missing, that doesn't mean that it shouldn't be on the vehicle. It just means that we don't have the data. And it's so crazy. But this is really what I want to take a look at today, is how do we turn this into a JSON object, right? So we've got this, we've got one issue here. So like here, additional error check, possible value, suggested VIN. So it can't suggest a VIN. Error codes. We do have an error code. Possible values, I don't know. But it's saying, hey, the check digit does not calculate properly, which is true. This is just a randomly generated VIN. Hey, Marcus, welcome to the stream. But what we want to do is take this, like right here, we've got this variable and value, right? So turn the make to Chevrolet. Grab the manufacturer name out, grab the model, right? This should be Silverado Ltd. This should be Chevrolet for the make, right? We should have a 2022 in there. The series and trim. So the series actually typically gets appended to the model. So it would be a 1500 Silverado Ltd. So it's a Chevy 1500 Silverado Ltd. The trim is LT, which is funny that it doesn't match here, but so getting this information into here is what we want to do first. So how do we turn what we have here into stuff that we care about? And there are a couple of things I want to do. I want to talk about like pipe operators, specifically with relationships to when we're talking in relation to our, what do we want to call it? Arrays, right? Like this is a huge array. And so we'll talk about like, because what we probably want to do is run some filters on our array and things like that. Or I don't know if we do. It's not really that huge. We could process through all 135 elements and pull out the stuff that we care about. Let's start there. So, everything in this array is value ID, variable, and then variable ID. So, we were talking about using, and let me go over here. Doing this client side is so not fun. Yeah, and so typically when you do VIN decoding, you wouldn't do this client side, to your point, for Enough Sigma. And actually, when I worked at the auto auctions, we paid for a VIN decoder. We paid a decent amount for that VIN decoder. And that VIN decoder gave us data back in a better format than this. But I think this is a fun challenge to overcome. And one of the things I want to take a look at really quick, we find a browser here. So I have a bookmark here, and we were talking about, I think this is the one. Yeah, superstruct.js. Let's bring that up over here. And this is why we have this. Oh, that doesn't work. Dang it. I'm gonna have to find a better one because turning that on breaks this site. That sucks. Oh, that really sucks. So, I may have to find a better plugin. This was just the first one I found. What options do we have? Classic themes. We can create our own dark theme. So these are all native dark. When the native dark theme is active, have to go through this, but oh, so we can change the font color. There we go. Does that solve our issue? If we go back here, no. It changed this, but it didn't change anything else. Oh, hey, welcome to the stream. Thank you for subscribing, Chris. I really appreciate it. And Michael, yeah, I've seen way too many people get hacked. Me when I'm in a horror movie, exactly. That I just like some people that I really thought had. I'll have to take a look at this later. I don't want to get too stuck on this, but I am a little bit annoyed that this site breaks and forces us to do a light one. I'm sorry about that. I'll see if I can figure out how to fix it. But anyway, what we're looking at is we want to do something like this, where we can use superstruct to parse our stuff. So it'll be an array, and there's all sorts of stuff here, right? So we could coerce data. So very, very similar to kind of something like Zod. And I love Zod, but one of the biggest arguments I get against Zod all the time is its size, right? And it's a good argument against it because I think it's 62K. And if we're going for small, we should go for small. And superstructs, I believe, they don't make claims, but if we go look at bundle phobia and we do superstruct, so superstruct is 11.7K, and it's 3.4K gzipped, right? Way smaller than how it even looks at the stuff that we can bundle. But when we look at different things, right? The JSON schema is not bad. JOI is 42K. Zod is 14K. That's min and gzip. So right, so superstruct is way smaller than these, so I want to see if it's as capable as something like Zod. And if it's not, then we'll use Zod. Like bundle size shouldn't be our only argument against Zod, right? Because Zod has a lot of very powerful features. And like if we go take a look at Zod, it's 61K minified, and 14K gzip and minified. It stayed fairly stable, right, across releases. But it's not really you can't really break it apart, right? When you do Zod, you import Zod and that's the whole thing. But it's still smaller than things like JOI or AJV. Like superstruct is way smaller and yup is a little bit smaller, right? So that's why we're looking at does dark mode work here? It does, and it looks a lot better. So yeah, when we're that's why we're looking at superstruct. I really wish their site worked better, but we're going to have to deal with this. So the first thing we want to do is just install superstruct, and it's just super simple. So we're going to add it to our packages right away. Let's go ahead. We're not gonna serve our site while this is going on, just because we're gonna be making so many breaking changes that. So let's paste this. We'll get superstruct installed. Then we'll jump into the code. Typebox. Yeah, I've seen Typebox also. You can change the filter mode on Dark Reader. I did try changing the filter mode. I'm not sure. I need to do some more learning about Dark Reader. And maybe this isn't Dark Reader, right? So if I just go here, and we'll go add an extension, Dark Reader. So let's remove this one. And yeah, when I remove something from my system, it's probably not the best time to bug me. Well, that already fixed it. Oh, that is so nice. Okay, thank you for the suggestion on Dark Reader. Valibot or Archetype, yeah. Yeah, Valibot, so I've got those on my other browser too, but yeah. Valibot, Bundle Phobia. And thank you for that, Wiseman Z. Excellent, excellent idea, but yeah, if we look at Valibot, right? So Valibot shows up as 66.3. But the thing about Valibot is this isn't correct. And in fact, if we go to the site, Valibot, right? Valibot was specifically designed to look like Zod, but to be smaller. So it's tree shakeable. So yeah, it can reduce the bundle size by up to 95% compared to Zod. So ValidBot is designed to be very similar to Zod, and I was looking at ValidBot also, which might be something that we take a look at. So there's that one, and then there's also, if we go take a look at archetype, here, archetype, and archetype's fairly large, but again, this doesn't tell a whole lot. We look at archetype on their website. Again, archetype. This one looked really, really interesting to me because you use this type syntax this way, and was one that I looked at fairly seriously, but I settled on superstruct because I liked the syntax. But we might take a look at ValidBot too, because I know Zod pretty well, and having ValidBot be similar to Zod is a huge benefit. So it's one that we might take a look at. I think the reason that I didn't do ValidBot is that when I can't get to the site. It keeps resetting my the documentation site. For whatever reason, I can't get to it. And so I'm not sure what's going on there, right? The only cons against Validbot is the documentation is awful. Well, I can't tell you that because I can't get to the documentation. So maybe that's what you mean by documentation. I did take a look at Typebox also. And Typebox is pretty cool too. There's a lot of these things out there. And so, when you're taking a look at it, make sure that you're, this I love that they're using the type import here, because this makes it so that these don't get emitted. They're only used during development time, which is really cool. Typebox was really interesting to me too. I really like it. Look at its bundle size. Okay. Go to bundle phobia. So type box. Okay. That is impressive. Very impressive. The way I think it's handling this is it's using strong typing to its advantage. Man, that is an impressive bundle size. Like, it's hard to argue against the functionality it gives if you can get it gzipped in 143 bit like bytes, but minified it's 169 bytes. What's probably in it is, if we take a look, right, you can tell a lot about this library because they're using the type import from TypeScript, right? And what the type import does is it says that this is only a typing file, so it doesn't need to be a part of the bundle. And yeah, I agree, Michael. That's really hard to argue against. So probably the only thing that's in there is this type. So type.object, right? Static. Oh no, it's this. This is static. I don't know how they're getting it that small. I misread that at first. Um, I just associated type with type, but it's really just associated with this. Um, so all of this stuff here is probably what's in typebox. Um, Still, it's ridiculously small. So const t equals type object required this, properties this. So that's how it's doing the validation. Very, very cool. This is a library. Oh man, like this is crazy. String number integer boolean literal array. It's got tuples. It's got objects. It has a union. Got an intersection. Got a composite. Never. Oh, you can say it's not a string. Extends. I don't even know how that one works. Type extract. Exclude mapped. Man, you know what? You just sold me on Typebox. Like we could absolutely do this with Typebox and generate schemas from types, but using types in a language that isn't typed, but we get TypeScript for yeah. Um, we're going to remove superstruct. Um, and we're going to swap over to Typebox because this is difficult to beat. um, and I want to put it through its paces and see if I can break it. So again, just a simple say install. So we'll go ahead and install Typebox. What did I do? Oh, it copied over. There we go. Like that is so small. It is hard to. I don't even know. Like wow. Okay, so it's time to start writing some code with some Typebox, right? And let's see if we can put it through its paces. I don't think we will because the stuff we're doing is fairly simple. But what I want is when we get this response back, I want it to be strongly typed so that um, we can work with it right away. So we're looking at a value ID, variable, and variable ID. So 3 strings and a number, and it's just an array of that. We're going to call it a tuple because that's going to make it easy for us to pull things out. Um, so yeah, it's time to start writing code with Typebox. Yeah, and we learned OO basics. Wait, are you still at school, Michael? Um, man, that's crazy. Like they're going to teach you some crazy stuff about inheritance. Learn it, pass your test, and then forget it all. Okay. Okay. Your first code class and we learned OO basics. Yeah. But man, one of the I say that tongue in cheek. Don't forget it all. You should understand how inheritance works and stuff like that. It's right. It's an important part of computer science. But please don't write code that does inheritance. Inheritance is the strongest form of coupling that you can create. And there's the quote that I love, right? That says, I asked for a banana and I got the gorilla holding on to the banana and the whole jungle that the gorilla was in, right? Um, that that's kind of a description of one of the big downsides to object-oriented programming is that you've got this object that inherits, like the banana inherits from something, but that something also interacts with gorilla, and that right, and then that gorilla inherits from something, and that something also interacts with jungle. So now your entire object chain includes things that you don't want, and because the tightest form of coupling that you can do is inheritance, right? Because your base class, if that changes, that has to just by definition, it has to change every inherited child. And sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's a bad thing. Most times it's a bad thing. And again, like I said, I was watching a lot of Prime while I was sick on YouTube, and he was talking about an article that somebody wrote. Was a fascinating article on what they call the Dead Sea of development, where basically there's this effect that happens at like programming companies over time, where the companies change in a way that chases away all their talent, and then what they're left with are only the developers who are willing to stick around and put up with whatever chased away all the good developers. And so you wind up with what they call this dead sea of developers who maintain kind of a messy code base. And they were calling them expert beginners based on like the Dreyfus and Dreyfus knowledge acquisition scale. It was a very fascinating article. I want to go look it up and just dig into it more myself and look into things like that. But where was I even going with this? That's awesome. When I lost my train of thought. But oh yeah, inheritance. Right. Prime was saying that someday he wants to use the extends keyword in any language and have it work out, right? And that just cracked me up because I feel the same way. Every time in the past where I've written like what I thought was a beautiful object graph, at some point that object graph winds up getting in the way. So yeah. And that's the annoying thing about having things in multiple places is that we get duplicated Twitter messages. I am like, if I start making just a little bit more, I may move to a different streaming platform that allows me to unify all chats. That's one of the things that's tough. If I don't respond to a chat right away, I'm looking at 3 different chats when I look over to the side screen, trying to see, what's going on. So if I don't respond to your message right away, it's not that I'm ignoring it. It's just that I've got 3 different chats going on, and sometimes they get buried under other windows and things like that. What I probably need to do, and this is, what a lot of other YouTubers do, is they've got a monitor that sits right above, or a device that sits right above their camera. So my camera is right here. They have a device that sits right above it. And so when it looks like they're looking straight at the camera, they're actually looking at this device that's got all their chats and stuff in it. Um, I'm not that professional. I don't have that kind of cash right now. So yeah, your prompter, exactly. TBD Gamer. TBD Gamer has one, and it makes things really nice because then I can look like I'm looking at the camera and be reading chat and stuff like that instead of looking over here to the side. It's a lot more professional. It's a lot more engaging. You guys can see my eyes when I'm talking to the camera and stuff like that, right? And talking to the camera is an important part of engagement. And there's just all these things that you need to know when you start streaming. You don't learn until you've been doing it for a while and doing it poorly. And I still do it poorly. I'm not claiming to be a good streamer, but you start learning these things that help you be better. And so, uh, yeah, we're way out in the weeds right now. Let's write some code. This is supposed to be a coding stream. Anyway, that's going to keep happening until um, it was the analog plugin that's broken. So our Vindicoder service, we were looking at tests on this. What were we looking at tests for? We were probably looking at tests to just make sure that it called it properly. Or so here's the call, right? Out to the vpic.nhtsa.gov website. And if you guys want to do your own Vindicoders, this is exactly how you can do it. So these Vindicoders, this Vindicoder is for free, available on the government website. You're probably rate limited, but that's why you probably can't build a business like the one that I worked for, the auto auction that I worked for. The auto auction that I worked for started out as Brazier's Auto Auction in Salt Lake City. It was then purchased by Odessa, and then Odessa sold it to, what is that company called? They basically put up like big vending machines of cars in your cities. You've probably seen them if you're in a bigger city. There's one not far from where I am. They just put a whole bunch of cars in this big glass building. They look like a big vending machine, and if you want to go test drive a car or something, they've got this process that brings the car down and you can drive it. And I should know the name. One of my good friends works there. He's like the VP of development or something there now. He's doing really well. Oh, you know what? It doesn't matter. Anyway, if you're a company that size, the number of Vindi codes you do is probably going to outpace what this site allows us to do. You're probably rate limited to a certain number of decodes per hour or per day or who knows what, right? I doubt we'll hit that. Maybe we will during testing. And if we do, we'll figure out how not work around it, but what we can do is capture the data for a VIN, and we can start. Well, maybe we could take a look at that too, is doing some caching, right? So if we go to decode this VIN again, we're not going to make a request to the site. We're just going to keep the cached data, something like that. Because this data is unlikely to change, between calls. VIN decoding is pretty static business. And like the VIN decoder we paid for would receive monthly updates. As new vehicles were rolled out. I don't know. It may have been less than that. I don't even remember how often it updated. And that update plan was good enough to catch, like, I would say 95 to 98% of the vehicles we tried to decode. Any vehicle built before 1980, you can't decode the VIN probably anyway, because 1980 was when the 17-digit VIN was standardized. But thank you for following. Let me make sure. Um, Ravi Teja, thank you for following. Really appreciate it. It helps me a lot. And my YouTube channel is definitely picking up quite a bit. So thank you for following, and thank you for following on YouTube. It does mean a lot. Um, all right. So the VIN decoder. So we downloaded this super tiny library, like ridiculously tiny, Typebox, right? So how are we going to use Typebox? Well, right now, this return isn't very helpful, right? It just returns an observable object, which is not great. We can help a little bit, right? What we can do is we can say, hey, this returns an object array, right? And that's going to be a help right away. But we don't even need to go that far, because what we can do is we can build a Typebox decoder. And so we can go into our folder and let's just add a new file, right? With our no, let's add a new folder, new directory, and we're going to call this directory, and this is going to be annoying. Let's go see which one. Actually, let's add the directory first, and then we'll go see. So we'll call this our models directory. And let's go take a look. So it's the analog plugin again that's causing that error. So we're just going to go into our plugins. And for right now, we are going to say, hey, our analog plugin, just disable you and apply that. Okay. That should do away with those error messages for now. So in our models folder, we're going to add a new file. And this, we're going to just call it the VIN decoder response .ts. So this is where we are going to use Typebox. And so if we go to the Typebox website, what we want to do is just use an array. The usage shows here, they've got an object. So I think we can just do type.array like this, and then we can put our object inside of there. So let's give it a shot, right? So we are going to say that we want, we're going to say const, and we'll just, like, I'm trying to use this similar to how Zod does it, but that might not be the right way to do it. So transform, guard, unsafe. What does guard do? Oh, wow. So it's got built-in type guards. That's really cool. I've written so many type guards, but that's very cool. Very cool. I actually really like that. Assert, create, clone, check, converts. I'm looking for parse. So we create this object, and we can just do value.parse, pass it t, and give it the object. Well, that's really cool. Very cool. This throws an assert error. Is there a safe parse? Let's just go look through values. So assert just says, this type is this. Create. Well, that's cool. That is very cool. I've written so many of these too. Oh, wow. Burn of Sigma. Typebox is looking pretty impressive. Check function to type check a value. Convert. So clean. Oh, that's nice. It'll pull extra things off, or you can provide defaults. You can do castings, you can do decodes, encode. The parser, we'll use the parser. And we're going to use this notion of partial application, which is a functional thing to create our parsers. So this is our, we'll just call this our Vin decoder response equals. And here we're going to say type, and we're going to grab that dot array class to import. We're going to need to import that from import type from typebox. There we go. And here we can say type dot array. And then we're going to do our type dot object, right? Type dot object. Boom. And so our type dot object has a couple of properties, which we can just grab from here. We're going to grab copy. Let's just grab this copy object. Is that the whole object, or just the one we wanted? Perfect. So again, we need to go look at the typebox documentation, right? Because we're just learning this. So with typebox, if we go up to the very top, we can see that it's just type.string, 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 and it would be type.number. So we can say value is type.string. Yep. And value ID is not type.integer, it is type.string. And variable is also type.string. And variable ID is type.integer. So at this point, we've got our Vin decoder response built up from an array and an object. And now we just want to export we can export a const. And this is our Vin decoder parser, or Vin decoder response parser. And this will be type.parse or it's not type.parse. What was it? I think it's value.parse maybe? Yeah, value.parse. This becomes, we're doing partial application here. So yeah, we definitely want a response, any, and this is going to return I don't think you can you do Vin decoder response dot type as array? Yeah, so this just becomes, so here, if we look, this just becomes an object array, right? That's not what we want. We definitely want to use value. We're going to value, and we need to pull in value also from typebox. And then we can do dot parse. And then we can do, we're going to use a Vin decoder response. And then response. And really, we don't even need any here. We can say that this is unknown. And so now we've got this response parser, right? And response parser just takes in the response that we want to parse, and it's going to return that that parsed response or an error, right? And the return type on this function, if we look, it is type any. That is not what we want. Why is that type any? Value has no, or typebox has no exported member value. One of my friends from in my old college town before I moved away made a, oh, come on, why do you have to put stuff right over the top? Oh, that's so annoying. Why is that right over the top? Like the reaction is right over the top of, I can read it off the street. Made a Vin guessing game. Oh, really? That's kind of cool. That would be interesting to see how I would do with that. So it's saying that value doesn't. So does value get imported from someplace else? Okay, it comes in from /value. So actually, we can just do this. Nope, that is not what I wanted to do. I wanted to copy the whole line. So that can come in from there. And this comes from /value. Boom. And so now the return type here is static T object evaluate. So that is kind of an ugly type, but it's probably going to become a much nicer type. But really, we're using this for the Vin decoder service. So here we've got our get, and then we can do a dot pipe, right? And we want to do map response. And the reason we want to do map response is map response instead of map forces us to use here, it forces us to create a next and an error object so that we create an object that will behave properly. And it won't break our pipe. Oh, do we care here actually? No, actually we don't. We don't want to do the map response here. We want to raise the error to the client to allow the client to handle it. We don't want to handle the error here. And that's an important part of programming, is deciding how you want to handle your errors, because some people would handle their errors here in the service, and that is a good way to use encapsulation, right? To do the error handling here and just know that we're not going to get an error out of here. But you know, I think like we might want to handle HTTP errors differently than like mapping errors and things like that. So this is why I want to raise the error up and allow whoever consumes it to be able to decide how they want to handle the errors, right? So we're just going to map it. We're going to call our response here. And actually, we don't even need to do that. We can just do, so in our Vin decoder response, we can just pass it to our Vin decoder response parser, right? So Vin decoder response parser, boom. And now we'll see that the return type on decode Vin is an observable that has a value ID, variable, and variable ID. We do have a problem though, because as I look at the response type here, value could be null, value ID could be null, I think. Variable, I don't think can be null. So let's go take a look at this response and just make sure that so if we scan over this, right, value, there's a null value right there, and there's a null value and value ID, right? So we've got a bunch of null values. And a bunch of null value IDs, but variable doesn't look like it's ever null, and make this just a little bit bigger. Check our responsiveness over here. We're failing responsive checks, right? Because our stuff doesn't. we'll need to handle that. But I'm just looking at the variable ID. It looks like it's always a number. I guess we'll find out if it fails parsing. But we know that variable and value and variable or value ID, these two can be null or empty or an empty string or things like that. So we need to handle that in our type, and our type right now does not do that. So when we look on our return type, we've got value ID, and so we need to handle that in our response. So I'm curious, and this is again where we're doing some learning, right? How do we make something nullable? We'll keep looking through the documentation. Any unknown number, integer, boolean, null. So would you do a union here? It's required pick. Oh, that's interesting. Omit index, tuple, uncapitalized, capitalized, uppercase, lowercase objects. So I think what we would do is we would do a union type here. So we would say type.union. And then inside of the type union, we would do string type dot null. Boom. Am I doing my union right? Got the tree shaking stuff still turned on. Let's make sure that I'm doing my union right here. So type unions are an array, which makes sense. So there we go. And value ID has the same capabilities. And so there is one thing that I am seeing between like Typebox and Zod. So like minimum length in get out of the way, turn off for another hour. Just get out of the way. Yeah, so like required is there, but I don't think it does validation, which is one thing that Zod does. So you could, right, when you build this up, you can say that the number has to be between a certain thing and things like that. But I don't want to say that until I know for sure. So conditional, transform, guard, unsafe. assert, create, clone, check, convert, default, clean, decode, encode, parse, equal, hash, diff, patch, errors, to enumerate validation errors. Oh, that's cool. Mutations, pointers. Yeah, so if we wanted to do something like more advanced, that's cool. The workbench, we'll have to go take a look at that. Fastify, really? Nominal types, that's interesting. Open API box, Prisma box. TS2 type box. This is the one that I'm interested in, the form parser. And oh, type box validators. Maybe that's what I'm looking for. I mean, okay, so the compiler errors, type box itself. Is actually bigger than that site shows. Interesting. So I grabbed a couple of links here. So Fastify is a cool library, but it's not what we're looking for. OpenAPI, this one's interesting to me because if you've got OpenAPI, you can probably build stuff with Typebox, which is cool. Typebox form parser, this is the one. Okay, so this adds like min length to it. Very interesting. And then typebox validators. Not requiring a development time code generation step. Typebox provides the ability. Yeah. The typebox validators. So abstracts. Oh, interesting. So min max length, pattern, error message. So this definitely adds some powerful validators. So worth looking into. And that's what I figured. Like I figured Typebox was pretty good. And the workbench, I don't want to get too distracted today. We aren't doing validators anyway. But what I wanted to make sure is now when we call decode, we can now see that value is a string or null, value ID is a string or null, variable is a string, and variable ID is a number. So that's really, really helpful. From this point, what I would like to do is there's a whole bunch of stuff in the array that's returned that's just not useful. So anything here where value is an empty value, it's not useful to us. And anywhere where null is an empty value is not useful to us. Right? So none of this stuff here is useful because we don't even know. Like if we look at 124, right? it's other motorcycle info, but it's null. It doesn't do us any good, right? Like this one, adaptive driving beam, which is cool. It's a cool feature, but it's null. It doesn't do anything for us. It doesn't tell us whether it's there or not, right? Um, and so, like this one right here is just an additional error text, but it doesn't mean anything to us. So what I want to do is just go through and filter out everything that is null or an empty string for value. And so we're just going to use another map to do that. So here we've got our response. And what we can do is we can just return response dot filter and then item. We can just say item dot value does not equal null. And item dot value. Actually, that may catch what we care about. Need to remind myself here. We come down to the bottom. Holy cow, there's a lot of errors here. There are a lot of errors here. So, like if I do this does not equal null, that's going to be true. So, but if I do not this, that's true. So we can just say item.value does not equal null and item.value does not equal empty string. And there we go. So now we've turned our response and now value can't be null and neither can value ID. Let's be a little bit sneaky here. Just down here, what we can do is we can just say function, and we can say filter nullish and empty, and we can say T, and then items are T, and no, that is not what we want. We actually want that. We're also going to add in a filter that is item T. Yep, and it returns a Boolean. Yep. And then we can just say filter right here. And that's good. And then what we can say now is it's going to return T array. So we're going to filter nullish and empty. And this can now be response. right? And so um, so here we're going to go item. This could be item dot value. It's not equal null, and item dot value does not equal that. What is it complaining about? I think that is extra, right? Yep, that solves that. Oh, hey, guess what? That is a good way to get timed out. I'm not buying viewers. You know, my market is small as is. It's not worth it to buy viewer. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, so here, what we need to do. So we can say T extends object, right? And then the next, let's spell object properly. And then U, and this should return U. So if we look at this, now our filter nullish and empty here, returning an unknown, it doesn't know. The T array is not, U could be instantiated with an arbitrary value. That is absolutely right. But we can do a mapped array here. So we can say, hey, type, and we can say, we'll just call this filter nullish and empty. And here we can say T extends object equals, and actually we can just say T here, and we can just say, hey, T extends object. Then what we want to do is we want to say, this is going to be, oh yeah, we can just make it T. That's fine. So what we want is we want K and key of T, key excludes, did that work? That's going to say TK. We take that off and that off. And because we're removing. This doesn't work. This is where using some type scripting helps. Because what I want to do is create a type so say we have type, we call this with nulls, right? Equals, and we can say, hey, prop1 is a string or null. Prop2 is a number or null. Prop3 is a Boolean, right? And so now what we want to do is say type without nulls equals, and we can say t extends, well, here we can just say t extends object, then we'll do something with it. Otherwise, we'll just return t. And then we can say, hey, for key in key of t, we just say required here. Let's go look at the docs, because in the utility types, I think there's something that I remember there being something here. There's a weighted partial required type. So it's the minus question mark. Can make things required. Oh, and the other thing we want to do, I'm remembering now. So we can say, hey, we want to take off the question mark, right? And the other thing we want to do is extract tk or t key. We want to extract null and that from it. That work, or is it omit? Oh, and it's not this. I need the or here. Is that not right? Let's go take a look at the docs. You might want to exclude null instead of extract. Yeah, and that's what I think I want to do is omit null. String or null does not satisfy the constraint string or number or symbol. String is not assignable to that. I'm going to have to do more. For right now, we're just going to omit null. Doesn't like my omit. I've got too many doesn't T key. Key and key of this. We remove that. Oh, that omits that. That's keys. You're right. You are right. We want exclude. We want exclude. And I may be able to do this now. Why doesn't it like this? I've got too many curly braces. That should work. So now if I do type test equals without nulls, with nulls, boom. Now the type of test is string number Boolean, right? So we've removed the nulls, we've removed the Boolean, and we've removed the optional. So this is the type we wanted. We can copy this back into our code. And hey, Chow, it's good to see you. Very good to see you. Type or null is a union. Yes. So we can do this. And this is why I like TypeScript lang, because it helps. Because filter, can I tell it that it takes filter nullish and empty, filter yeah, so the value t we're gonna have to do a cast here as that. Here we go, and I think we can just say, hey, it extends object. So there we go. So now if we take a look at our decode Vin response, we've taken out our null and undefined and empty strings. Really, the empty string doesn't work in our type. So this doesn't really do anything. But what we've done is by calling this function, we now know that what we get back won't have the same values that our Vindicode, right? Because so from here, we get back string or null. From here, we get back we get in string or null, we get out just string, 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 and number, right? So um, I'm starting to feel better. Thank you for asking, Chow. Life's been busy, very, very, very busy. I'd love to talk to you offline. Um, and we joked a bit about like a type collab. I would love to talk some more about that, but just also just like to talk. So I'll reach out to you here in a bit as things are calming down. Well, at least I hope they're calming down. So, but it's good to have you here, man. Um, anyway, I need to. Oh, I'm a little bit over, but um, now if we so we've created this type, right, using typebox, and I'm really curious about what this does to our types. But the benefit here is, let's go serve this. Um, exec nx serve. I did pnpn again. pnpm exec nx serve modular state. So we'll go ahead and serve this. I'm really curious, is this as small as we think it is? And we could take a look at that. And then I probably need to end the stream, but I want to show you guys what we've accomplished with this. So we've got like 43 bytes here. I'm not sure what's going on. We'll take a look at these, but 43 bytes, this makes me think this is typebox. Um, so let's just go and hit our decode bin, right? So before, if we remember, before I do this, right, we had all these nulls and stuff in here. Now when we hit decode vin, oh, expected required property. I want to make sure that we are handling this properly. No, that's breaking our. So our tap response isn't handling this, which is interesting. This shouldn't be broken. So I'm curious which property it is expecting. And what we can do to figure this out is we can go here. And in our Vindicode response parser, oh, so right here, we'll just tap. So bring in a tap, and we will do that here. Console.log response. We're good here. So response before parse. Let's just see. We'll clean this out and boom. So the response before the parse. So it's expecting a required property. So in our results, oh, that's the problem. I'm trying to parse the response, but it needs to be response.results. So here, we're going to add another. So this is not the response. This is the Vindicoder response. We'll just add export type, and here this will be our service response. And for this response, we're going to add the values we're getting here. So count, message, results, and search criteria. So count is a number. Message is a string. Response is an unknown array, perfect, and search criteria is a string. How did it? That is interesting. What I don't like about like government websites is everywhere on the web, these are lowercase, right? Just ECMAScript, these would all be lowercase. These are all uppercase, which tells me that it's like a Java or a .NET something that's creating this. So yeah, it's it's a little bit frustrating, but here now we can just say, hey, this is a service response, which means that here we can no longer just pass it. We have to do response and do an arrow, and then we're going to response dot response. Because I'm so good at naming things, we get a response dot response. This one's good. And so now if we go and we decode our VIN, it expected an object on line 74. Is it not an object? It's an array, value, value ID, and variable. VIN decoder response. And really, we could just do static here and import static. And does this return a VIN decoder response? It does. And VIN decoder response is object variable. So it's an array. Responses of type unknown object, which are unknown array. Oh, it's results. It's not response, it's results. Somebody's probably screaming that at me somewhere. Not response, results. which means this needs to be results. Which now if we decode the VIN, there we go. So we go from 136 items right here that have a whole bunch of just empty and null responses down to 55 responses that really have anything that we could possibly want. And so everything we see here, nothing has, the null or undefined. And the nice thing we've got is that because we use the parser, this method now returns an array that we know has to have a value, has to have a value ID, has to have a variable and a variable ID. So we could parse this down to a vehicle, which is the next step here, is to parse the information we get down to what we care about, which is going to be another map in this, another step in this here. What I'm beginning to see is, notice here, we create an array of 136 items. Here, we turn it into 55 items. And then the next step is to go through those 55. But what if we could combine these two steps? What if these two steps could be one step, and that one step would, instead of parsing the entire array, would parse the objects in the array and return an item in that array that had all the VIN or all the null and undefineds filtered out. We'll take a look at that in the future, but that's very possible. And that, so if you guys have never seen, oh, that's a horrible way to do it. It turned it into an error. What this is that plus that with no space. But because I've got glyphs on, it's turning it into that. That comes from ECMAScript pipe operator. So this was proposed in 2021. We're in stage 2 draft. But basically what the pipe operator is, if you've used RxJS, you understand the pipe operator, right? The pipe operator, where are some examples here? I'm looking for examples of the operator itself. So here we go, right? So this would be a confusing, yeah. So the pipe operator is basically taking this X value, it's yielding X value, and then when the yield comes back, it's adding 1. And it's like, what does this even mean? Right? And so this is also a weird one because, taking the X value, piping it into Y, if Y is non-nullish, then it returns it. Otherwise, taking a Z value, piping it in and adding 1. And it's just like, this doesn't make sense, right? And it doesn't know when the pipe should be evaluated and stuff like that. And so by adding parens, you can make it easier for it to understand when things should happen. But that's basically what the pipe operator does, is it takes a value and runs it through a pipe. Very, very similar to what we do in RxJS, right? When we call pipe in RxJS, we're doing something very similar to this. we don't go through every emit for the first map, right? We don't wait for every emit to happen before the first map completes, and then the next map, and then a filter, and right. Um, it goes through the entire pipe for every emit. Um, this operator is to give kind of that ability um, to arrays. Um, so imagine here on this response, because results is an array, right? And so imagine we could do something like results, and then we pipe it to the Vin decoder response parser, right? And here you would pass the percent, and then we could pass that to this. And so then, each item would be filtered. And this is kind of pseudocode, right? Because this should really just be the result. And so we could pass it through this pipe. And so every item in the array could go through and then be filtered. And that's the power of something like a pipe operator. It gives us the ability to do that kind of stuff. And why would we want to do that? I remove? No. Okay. Anyway, why would we want to do that? Well, in JavaScript, right, it runs through every. So this Vin decoder and parse response is pretty expensive. What if we could flip flop these, right? And what if we could filter out everything that had a null or an empty value? And then pass that into a simpler parser that would just parse out the type, and then give us back an array of that, right? So then this would be run on every item, right? It would filter out the null and the nullish and empty, but this would only be run on 55 of the items. But we wouldn't go through and run it on everything and filter it down to 55 and then run again on 55. It would just be run as one loop. And so we're going to take a look at potentially doing something like that with one of the functional libraries. But for now, the final piece to this is just to take what we get out of here and map it into an actual vehicle object. So that's what we're going to do. I'm just a little bit over, but I'm okay with that because I skipped twice this week. I want to do one last thing before we go. So let's build this with stats.json. And the reason I want to do that is I want to look at what the actual initial bundle size is after adding this library, because this library gives us a lot of power, but I'm curious how it affects us, right? So we know this is Angular, like this main chunk, these are Angular. This is the styles. Oh, I wanted to take a look at breaking out the styles too. So there's this chunk here. So we're serving 290K, like 77K gzip. I would like to make this smaller. But one thing I want to take a look at is our styles.css. So we're adding Tailwind. Oh, there's kind of not a way to shrink this. That's okay. I mean, there probably are, and I can take a look into that. But what we can look at is potentially shrinking what we've got in our bundles. So we can go into dist, and then apps, and then modular state. And inside of here, we've got our stats.json. If we do our pnpm dlx, our esbuild visualizer on stats.json, here I should be able to start that file. And let's bring that over here. So this is our biggest chunk. And it includes RxJS. It includes the common. It includes tslib and the core of Angular, right? So this chunk, we might be able to do some stuff with SSR. If we don't do stuff with SSR, there's some tricks we can do to even get this to lazy load, which is kind of funny. So then the next biggest chunk is this one. And it looks like we've got some stuff in here. So our so this is our Vindicode feature, and it includes the models, which is 178 bytes, and then the Vindicoder service, which is now 550 bytes. That's like, we're less than a K on our Vindicoder. I'm okay with that. But here's Typebox. So Typebox actually added 96K. So it's definitely not as small as the bundle phobia said it was. And that's what I wanted to validate, right? Because I was like, how do you get all of that capability in something so small? So one of the things, every once in a while I show up, hey, Abradores, welcome to the stream, man. Hope things are going well for you over in Italy. Yeah, so Typebox is definitely bigger than um, than it says. And this is actually Typebox is here. This is value from Typebox. This is errors from Typebox. Typebox is 96K of our chunk. So it takes up 24% of this chunk. So we definitely grew this chunk by quite a bit. I like Typebox. It does some very, very cool things. We may leave it in, but it is pretty large. Like 96K, that puts us above Zod. Zod is 62K. We may replace this. We may replace it with superstruct. as part of what, and the reason that that I'm debating this, right? Typebox is really cool. And again, I'm not saying that you should make decisions based solely on bundle size. One of the things we're trying to do here is minimize our bundle size. One of the goals here. So we aren't using a lot of Typebox's features. So I'm really curious, if we take Typebox out, can we make this smaller? Like our main module here is 80K, and most of that is PNPM modules. And then we've got some other stuff over here coming in from the state. So there's main, there's our app config, there's our routes, the store, and then, wow, the app component. Oh, I was going to say this is huge. It's not, it's 2K, right? So by far and away, the largest part is the Angular router, and then the platform browser. And then here's our styles, right? So let's see what happens. Things are not amazing. Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that. Reach out to me. We can talk. So, why are you looking at bundle sizes? That's for nerds. Because I'm a nerd, dude. If you hadn't noticed, I'm definitely a nerd. So let's put superstruct back, right? So let's see, PNPM add and Baker. Did we do it with install? Yeah, we did. So we'll put superstruct back, and I want to. And these are the kind of experiments that I recommend, like, you run as you're writing code, just to see, like, what is the payoff right here. That's for sure an Angular thing. Looking at bundle size, we have to just build it and ship it, baby. No regards for anything. No wonder everyone is making fun of us. React isn't the only one who doesn't look at bundle sizes. There are a lot of Angular shops that are just like, oh yeah, 10 megabytes to our clients. Who cares if they're on a phone? Ship it, right? So I'm not going to say that's a React only thing. You did make me laugh, though. That one is hilarious. So let's. How do we want to do this to make sure that we don't? So what we can do, just so we don't lose things, right? Is let's commit this with typebox in place. So stage all changes. We can say we used typebox to parse returned data, right? And we're gonna try this with superstruct, and then I definitely need to end. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're just gonna take all of this out, and that means all of that goes out, and we need to build our parser in superstruct. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. And in superstruct, very similar, right? So objects, all of that. And you can do defaulted, right? And things like that. So we want array, right? And we want objects. So we're going to go back to our code here, and we're going to say const. And again, we're going to say vin decoder response equals, and here we're going to say, hey, it's an array, and that comes from superstruct. No, that is not where that comes from. There we go. And then inside of here, it's an object. And this again will come from superstruct. And then inside of our objects, we have a couple of things, right? We've got our value, and this is where I need to look at how superstruct does things. So inside of here, it does union, right? So superstruct does it very similar. So we'll go ahead and do union. So this one is union, and it is string or null. And we'll pull these in, union, string, and null. Oh, how do we do null in superstruct? Nullable. Okay. So we don't even have to do the union. We can just say, hey, this is nullable string. Great. Nullable string. Right, and then value ID is a nullable string. Was it variable? And I should know. Well, I can just go look here, can't I? So it's variable and then variable ID, and that's string and integer. So variable is a string and variable ID is an integer. It's just number. There we go. There's our Vindicode response. And now we need a parser. So is that really how you do it? No, that doesn't make sense. So Vindicode response is just a structure. So here, if we do validating data, no, that's not what we want. Refinements, coercions. Validating data, it wants us to assert that proposed values. Is it coercing data? Default values, custom coercions, no. Refining validation. Pattern refinements, using TypeScript. Narrowing types, this is what I want. Is. So if it's that, okay. So here we've got our response, and here we just say if is, we grab that response, boom. Now what does this return? Now if we go take a look at our service seems to be behaving, and we're still getting back what we expected. Our map here is that, our map here is that. It seems to be behaving. So let's go ahead and restart our serve. Like, why isn't that working? It's not working because you're using the wrong command. So we'll get this to compile and see if our bundles, oh, come on. So Vin decoder service, oh, I'm not exporting it, right? No, Vin decoder response parser. It's right here. In the service, right here. Yeah, that works. So module this Vin decoder response has no exported members Vin decoder response parser. Vin decoder response parser and then it's complaining that it can't determine what the values are. Let's try again. And really, we don't even need the return here. See if that changes anything. That is really weird. I don't know why that changed things, but that's okay. So now if we clear this out and we hit decode Vin, we get the exact same thing. So we're back to where we were. Let's see what the difference in size is. So again, npm, build it with stats.json. I want to take a look. So our main is 290K. So our initial chunk is 290K. And let's take a look here. Where is it? Has it scrolled out of? Nope. That's the very beginning. That is a serve. That is another serve and another serve and another serve. So here we go. 290K. They're almost the exact same size, which is interesting. So dist apps. So PNPM exact or DLX that. And go grab that again. Where do I have that? That is here. So here we go. Again, this hasn't really changed. It's all the same stuff. Yeah, it's the signals. So this is the package here. Router and platform browser. Why is this the same size? This is 136. This is 79.7. $18.37. I guess they're off just slightly from what's being reported here. Because that says 141, and this is saying 136. This main module includes app route, state store, but I'm not seeing. So this main right here is the platform browser and the router. So here we've got the ESLib, common MJS, and this is RxJS. This is the core, and this is signals. So there's forms, there's HTTP, and here's superstruct. So this is the chunk that includes superstruct. So this chunk right here is 4.25K. So here's our Vin decoder service and our Vin response. And this is all of superstruct that we're bringing in, 3.6K. This chunk is a lot smaller than the one we were looking at before. So I've got it up over here in Chrome. Here's the one we had before in Chrome. And so if we look at the root chunk, this is ugly. There we go. So our root chunk is 411. Here we're at 318. So we've taken a lot out, right? We've taken like 92K out. Oh, that's a tough call. because I like a lot of stuff about Typebox, but it's crazy to me that it's this big. And the reason that it's this big is the same reason that Zod can't be tree shaken. Um, and it has to do with the way things work, right? So if we go take a look at the um, type box, right? Everything comes in on this type. And so type.array, type.object. This is very similar to what you would do in Zod. It would be z.array, z.object, right? And you import things from z. And then, things exist on value. The problem is you can't tree shake parts away. And so when we go take a look at, the Chrome, we see in this chunk, we get the entire type, right? Here's type right here. And here's errors. And, there's guard and extends. And so this stuff can't be tree shaken away. Here's type, here's value, here's errors, right? And so I must be doing something wrong. But the bundling here is crazy compared to the bundling here, right? This is all of my type system right here versus, I get a gigantic chunk. So yeah, we're gonna move away from Typebox for now. What about Yup? Yup is actually bigger. So if we go, this isn't what we want to be on. This is the one. Bundle phobia. If we look at like Yup, actually Yup is 42K. So it's not too bad. But when we look at Yup versus Zod, I actually prefer Zod, and there's not much difference, like 10%, like 4K difference. Doesn't matter that much to me. But like Superstruct, again, right? We're 73% smaller than Yup. So, yeah, it does kind of suck. I really liked Typebox, and I was hoping that I thought there might have been just some type magic going on, but no, there's a whole bunch going on there with Typebox. So yeah, I like my chunks large and in charge. So you're saying you like your chunks to be very American. Anyway, thank you guys for being here. I definitely need to end. I've gone over by about an hour, and I've got some stuff I need to do today. But I enjoyed this, and this is the kind of stuff I really enjoy. Just exploring like the in-depths and the internals, and seeing, if we make this decision, what are the consequences, and if we make this decision, what are the consequences? So I'll be back again tomorrow, where we will be converting this array that we've got here. So we'll be converting this array into an object, and then we'll be using that object to fill this form. And then once we do that, we'll start doing some testing, and start looking. Once we've got that testing in place, then the next thing to do is I want to look at SSR and see what that does to our bundle sizes. Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Alvarez. I look forward to it. But yeah, you guys have a great rest of your weekend. And thanks for showing up. We'll see you next time.